So, good morning, everyone, and very, very warm welcome on behalf of PMAI. We appreciate all of your presence, and we are indebted to the entire ecosystem. Today, I'm going to give you a broad overview of what PMAI is doing, what the Indian and global macro picture looks like, a detailed overview into the automotive industry and the trends, and of course, as we do with every year, we will look at briefly at the how the PM industry in India is doing. PMAI, active and dynamic corporation. Our traditional annual activities used to be the powder metal short course and the international conference. And as you saw in the film, when Mr. Gopinath took over, he took PMAI to a new level. And with the APMA 2019, we really announced our arrival on the global stage. As India's moment is now coming, the next 2 decades look very, very robust. So PMAI's relevance in the global powder metal ecosystem has increased. We've opened our new office in Pune in 2023. The entire ecosystem is there. So it made sense to move from Mumbai to Pune. And our activities have expanded a lot in the last. So we think like a startup. There's a lot of young people who are now onboarded, and we think of what the industry and what academia and R&D professionals need. And you can see the list of courses that we are onboarding. And this year also a new PM industry workshop will be launched. So we are dynamic, we are progressive, we are learning, we are disrupting ourselves. What are the events of PMAI in the last year? We did a wonderful workshop with Malvern, and I'm grateful to our colleagues here. This partnership is deepening. We had an engineering tool design workshop for PM components, a very successful one, a geometric design and tolerance GD&T workshop, which is very close to our heart. It's a student outreach program, training students how to read engineering drawings. And of course, we have the PM25 International Conference now. And for 25, 26, we'll have a plant safety course that we run once every few years. We'll have an industrial workshop that I just talked about. We're doing the standard student outreach program now, and the powder metal short course followed by our international conference. Okay, let's look at where India is at the moment. We're the 5th largest economy in the world with a current nominal GDP of $4.2 trillion, which essentially speaks of 7.5% of global economic transactions, let's say, in people purchase parity terms. We're forecasted to hit 7 trillion USD GDP by 2030. And despite all the global headwinds, we're forecasting a growth rate of at least 6% or over in FY25. And this, over the medium term, reasonably strong growth rate should continue. Our per capita income is still low at $2,300. But this should be growing significantly over the coming 2 decades. We have a robust and resilient services economy. We have a very, very big push for manufacturing now. The government is supporting that with schemes like PLI, with the BIS implementation. So Indian standards need to be taken by any supplier who wants to sell anything to the Indian market. The reason for this is very, very clear. The government and the politicians are aware that if they are not going to be able to create jobs over the next 2 decades, where 175 million youngsters will come to the job market, there will be political consequences. So, and you have a very robust service industry in India as it is per se. So they cannot absorb all these jobs. So you're going to need to manufacture in India for consumption in India. We have more than 1.4 billion people here who consume a lot. As a matter of fact, of this $4.2 trillion economy, 62% is consumption. So you have more than $2.5 trillion that are being consumed every year. And India wants to make in India for India and potentially also for the world. We have a very vibrant startup ecosystem. There are hundreds of thousands of companies that are working to build disruptive solutions, to manufacture, to do software, engineering, etc. So this is a very, very vibrant and strong growth area. We have world's leading digital infrastructure. Many of you who are Indians know what UPI has done for us, and the ability for the people at the bottom of the pyramid to be able to transact digitally, to create a track record of transactions which can allow NBFCs to fund them for small sums as well. This is a game changer in India. There are green shoots in Bharat and urban India. We'll talk a little bit more about what the trends are in consumption a little further. A macro picture globally, uncertainty, more and more uncertainty. We had COVID, we had all these wars right now, unfortunately, and there are other areas in the world where you could have potential conflicts. There is a poor growth forecast for Europe, and China is seeing a structural slowdown after years of rapid growth, right? And the problem with this structural slowdown in China is that the demographics are not supporting further growth. They will lose 100 million working people in this decade, the coming decade, and another 100 million over the next decade. So if you're losing manufacturing jobs, then consumption trends are changing. You are also, as you rapidly age, your needs change, your consumption patterns change. So when you have such structural issues, however much you try to create stimulus, artificial stimulus, right now China is stimulating their economy a lot, their industry a lot. They're trying to say, shut down your old plants, we'll give you some subsidies, build new plants with massive infrastructure. But ultimately, there's going to be a lot of overcapacity. And what that potentially means is that China can dump a lot of product across the world. And then the question is, how does the world respond to that? Some countries will take advantage. They will take, they see cheap material coming in. But some countries like India and any country which wants to build their own manufacturing base will try to create protective barriers. So you're looking at potential trade wars that could emerge. You're seeing this is the age of deglobalization. So many countries post-COVID are working on pharmaceuticals. They're working on critical self-reliance in defense, in critical manufacturing, for mobility, for example, etc. So anybody who wants to export anything in the coming days or in the coming years, you're going to need to have a compelling value proposition, and you're going to need to have strategies that are tweaked to being present across continents, etc. India, well, that's the one potential bright spot. We have decent growth forecasts, but the one thing we should always watch out for is the fact that our Reserve Bank is always focused on fiscal prudence, and in an environment where the politicians seem to be creating a lot of social programs, Ladli Behna, for people who are Indian, they know it, Ladki Bahin, Ladli Behna, those kind of stimulus that you give to the poor. This is putting a tremendous strain on the fiscal. Our state of Maharashtra at the moment also has a lot of strain. Their payments for a number of schemes are badly impacted. And if this continues, because politicians tend to replicate success, and if this continues across states, you're going to potentially see a strain on and slowdown on capex, and you're going to see an impact. If capex is not strong, government capex is not strong, infrastructure capex is not strong, your growth rates will slow. So this is the one thing you need to watch out for in India. Okay, before I start presentations, very big disclaimer that anyone who tries to create forecasts is putting a gun to his head, right? Because it's a very hazardous business. Nobody predicted COVID, nobody predicted wars. So forecasting is hazardous. And as Warren Buffett says, forecasts may tell you a great deal about the forecaster, that is me, but they tell you nothing about the future. Additionally, the great statistical mathematician Edward Deming said, "In God we trust, all others must bring data." And I'm driven by this philosophy personally because it is data that allows you to create granular insights. It is data that tells you, for example, that in the 1990s, rice used to be the biggest staple driving India's consumption. And in the 2000s, it was wheat. And in the 2010s, it was travel and tourism. And in the 2020s, it is alcohol. 2022, $196 billion of travel happened and $211 billion of alcohol consumption. 85% of which is in south of India, by the way. So when you see data, when you take data and when you extrapolate trends, you have the ability to see how things have progressed and where you're going. Data is God. Let's start with the auto component industry, the India snapshot for FY24, and all credit to ACMA and thanks to ACMA for this. So you see here the turnover of $74 billion in FY24, exports of $21 billion, but it's more or less evened out against imports. We have a small $300 million surplus. Share in India's exports of 4.5%, a lot of scope to grow there. And the domestic aftermarket is also very robust at $11.3 billion. Rural tailwinds in play, shift to larger vehicles, etc. You can see here you have robust domestic sales and a robust aftermarket and exports that have driven the growth of the auto component industry, which has grown 2.5x in the last 10 years. Auto component performance, so you see again here that exports and imports are near parity, and you have a secular growth which is expected to continue over the next decade definitely, but there is a lot of scope for growth in exports. Sales by category and revenue from OEMs, self-explanatory. Take a screenshot and I'll move ahead. Exports, so dominant exports to USA and Germany, both those countries together are, I think, 35-36%, and then the rest of the world. Europe is a strong contributor, Europe and US. Drive, transmission and steering and engine components are the primary drivers of export, also other categories. Imports, we depend on China, followed by Europe and USA. China is 30% and the others are also significant. Imports, engine components, body chassis, suspension and braking, these are the main areas of import. You see the country-wise ratios here. You see China, Korea, Japan, USA, Thailand, supply 70%. The Indian auto component aftermarket, as I said, rural aftermarket demand is very, very robust. And this is creating a strong aftermarket business in India, and it's expected to be secular and continue to grow. And there's a shift to larger vehicles, premiumization at play, which also assists. Here are numbers, again self-explanatory. If anyone wants to take a screenshot, please feel free. Industry is expected to incur sizable capex in FY25 and FY26. So that, when you put money on the table, that tells you that your optimism is really high, and we will see significant capex. Let's look at India's automotive trends, thanks to ICRA and a few others, SIAM, etc. So most of the auto segments have reached or exceeded pre-COVID volumes of FY24. So you're seeing strong growth in all segments. Here are your production trends that I present every year to you. So passenger vehicles are very strong. Commercial vehicles also enjoying a strong period. Three-wheelers stable. Two-wheelers now becoming stronger and stronger. We had a very good year. Domestic sales trends mirroring a strong growth in passenger vehicle business. Two-wheelers of FY24 were coming back, but FY25 has been looks like a very good year. We'll do 19 million, more than 19 million. Export trends stable and growing. Let's look at what the consumer trends are in the automotive industry. The younger set of consumers, which is still a smaller piece of the market, but this is something that that we have to look at over the coming decade to see that emerge as a secular trend. But these are early signs. Younger consumers prefer ride-hailing. They are also showing some inclination towards an asset-light model where they can take car subscriptions, and Indian auto OEMs are starting car subscription programs. They are already in place as we speak. They like phygital buying experience. They like VR headsets, virtual rides of premium two-wheelers, etc. So this is another trend that is coming in. Your replacement cycle as the consumers become younger is tending to marginally shorten, but that's, you have to see over time if this trend continues in this direction. At the moment, there is very little here. There is a strong premiumization element in the Indian automotive ecosystem. With all the safety standards and Euro 6 or BS6 equivalent standards, your cost of the vehicle has gone up, and Indians are moving more and more towards premium vehicles. SUVs are the vehicle of choice. More than 50% of the vehicles cost ₹1 million or more. This number was at 20% about 7-8 years ago. So very, very strong trend to premiumization. Electrification, of course, everyone knows about this. E-mobility is going to see very strong growth in India. Used car market. So that is another very, very interesting subset. We do about 5.5 million units in FY25. That's projected. And you see the trends here as well. The SUV sales, which were at 18% in FY19, are projected to be nearly half in FY25. And there's a marked preference for physical dealerships in this because people like to go and see the car before they buy it. Having said that, there are 4 unicorns in the online sale of used cars. These 4 companies are already valued at over $1 billion each. And they have a small piece of the pie. So they also have a long way to go. Premiumization in FY19, the average sale price for a car in the used car market used to be 425,000. FY24, it is 566. So you're seeing that this number is also going up. And automatic gear cars, there is a trend where about 15% of those purchases are now automatic cars. So this number is expected to go up in the coming days because of the convenience, comfort, and the ability to buy cars with an AMT which don't really impact the fuel consumption. Okay, what are the trends in automotive technology? In 1980s, we used to have very basic mechanical systems with limited features. In 2000s, you had all these advanced braking and all sorts of safeties that emerged. And in 2020s, the buzzword is advanced connectivity and AI integration. This is what is really driving all the innovation in the automotive ecosystem. So electronics has surpassed mechanical engineering as the primary driver of features and specifications. And you see the deal flow in India, right? India's tech sector, which is massive at $350 billion annually, 1,500 global centers employing 1.6 million people. A quarter of Fortune 500 companies are present here with global centers. So 125 companies have global centers here. And 60 of those are auto-focused global centers with 100,000 people, and 20% of these are already working for auto tech. What's happening with the deal flow and numbers? FY22 was $60 million. FY24 estimated is $500 million plus. And what is driving that? It's the integration of advanced safety features. It's enhanced connectivity, AI and ML. And you see that also in the configuration of cars. 30% of the cars sold in FY24 have embedded chips that are allowing internet access, that allow drives to transmit and store and receive info via sensors. What are the tech use cases? There are a number of those. You see GPS-enabled navigation, you see emergency alerts, fuel management, all sorts of diagnostic, anti-theft management, vehicle alerts for the fleet operators, etc. And what is the future? Which is ADAS. It's already there in some premium vehicles, but more and more ADAS, route optimization, reducing fuel consumption, intelligent alerts, etc. And fleet electrification. Vehicle to everything, people talk about it, where the vehicle talks to the grid, far way away, but work has already started in this direction on V2X. FY25, passenger vehicle, you're looking at about 4 million units, and you see that utility SUVs continue to grow. They are now expected to be 69% of all cars sold. So they're the vehicle of choice. Powertrain trends, you can see here, conventional fuels in FY19 were 92%. FY29, the forecast is to go down to somewhere around 40%. CNG will continue because the total cost of ownership remains lucrative. So CNG will be at around 25%. Strong hybrid vehicles also will show very good traction because of their ability to deliver great value, especially in urban scenarios where you have stop-start traffic, etc. Battery electric vehicles, yes, again, powertrain trends are strong in that direction. We'll talk a little bit more, a little further. CVs, this shows a CAGR of 2%, but it doesn't reflect the big slowdown in 20 and then the big bump up through 22. So you had a 30% and 28% annualized growth rate between 20 and 22, and then again some normalization. FY24 numbers approximately 1 million units, and last year was a little subdued because of the election year. FY23, people could buy the last BS4 cars, so they BS4 CVs, I beg your pardon. So there was a big bump up in sales, but now you see that the high costs are biting. So it's expected to be moderate growth. The growth will continue, but it will not be a high growth as you saw in FY22. You will see again here, self-explanatory. Anybody wants to take a screenshot of the segment-wise market share and how it's evolved, it's here. Two-wheelers. So strong demand revival in rural India. EV sales currently low at 5% penetration. You have all sorts of forecasts actually from 25 to 50% by 2030, 2032. We'll see how that goes. Time will tell us. But definitely a strong growth is forecast in e-mobility. Motorcycles in FY09 were 92% of all sales. They are 63% now. Scooters are growing year on year. So people prefer for urban mobility and rural mobility simple scooters. Mopeds are coming down. Demand revival is very strong in rural India. Therefore, the estimated sales are expected to be 19 million units plus this year. E-two-wheeler sales are still low at 5 to 6, but we've talked about this, right? Strong adoption potential for e-mobility, e-two-wheeler, which is at 1 million plus in FY25, e-three-wheeler at 650,000, and e-bus. Here, the favorable total cost of ownership, there are clear tailwinds because you will see advantages to having to buying this. There are very, very compelling reasons for someone to look in this direction. E-four-wheelers, you still have to address range anxiety, resale value concerns, etc. But there will be strong growth nevertheless. It's a very, very low base. So you're going to continue to see over the next decade very strong growth for e-four-wheelers as well. You can see here the forecast from ICRA. The EV penetration across segments is expected to increase exponentially. What about OEM capex? Very strong. So everyone seems to be bullish on the Indian consumer, and you see that in the numbers over here. Overview of the PM industry in India. As I present every year, you see the powder consumption numbers, self-explanatory, secular growth here. Indian market for sintered components, 2022 onwards, we are giving you ballpark numbers. Earlier than that, we give you what we put in as our concrete numbers. But you see, these numbers are quite representative, and they are showing steady, sustained growth. Sintered part per vehicle, this is a standard part of our PPT year on year. Iron-based market for PM components primarily driven by automotive applications, copper-based by appliances. Where are your monitorables and challenges? Fundamentally, you have to look at how e-mobility develops for two-wheelers. For CV, you have to see how the high cost of replacement of vehicle will impact demand. And for four-wheeler, the opportunities are conversion of parts. Favorable demand for ICE over the medium term. Exports have massive potential, and we will continue to explore new applications and conversions, both non-auto, e-mobility, mobility. Summary of the talk: PMAI is dynamic and evolving with times. India macro is good, but you have to watch how we create jobs, and you have to watch out for government populism. Global uncertainty is quite high. The auto component and auto OEM capex is robust. India's young auto consumer has evolving preferences. You have to watch how those trends come. The used vehicle resale market is robust and will continue to show significant growth. Digital natives are very, very strong trends. So new skills will be required for emerging auto tech, and this is a high growth area for the future. E-mobility is poised for strong growth. And powder metallurgy will benefit from the growth in two-wheeler, three-wheeler, e-mobility, and also consumer durable appliances, which are expected to have very high growth over the next decade. I acknowledge the contributions from ACMA, CRISIL, ICRA, EY Parthenon, Grant Thornton, Bharat, and PM Powder and Part producers from the industry. Please email me. I can share a copy of this presentation to you if you need it. Thank you very much for your attention and all the best. Have a nice conference.